Not call the meeting to order.
I did it. Now you can do it.
Oh, whatever. Oh, you didn't. And then in order to turn it off, once again, I just hit,
Stop recording.
that's it. Easy peasy. Okay. Let's call the
And it's
meeting.
over.
All right, let's call the meeting to order of the Harwich Accessibility Rights Committee. It's Tuesday, August 9th. I hope everyone's enjoying this beautiful summer. So let's approve the minutes, please.
I move we approve the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have Steve moved and Eileen second. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to get to old business, but we are changing our agenda. I hope you all got my email, and we are fortunate enough to have Ginny Hewitt, who's the director of the Brooks Library, with us today. And if you would like to sit there. You gonna move up there, Larry, too?
No. I just want to go see you.
I don't know how close I have to be to get to that. Do you want me to just start?
I do.
Okay, hi, I'm Ginny Hewitt. I'm the library director. So I'm happy to be here and talk to you. I was so glad to, when this committee got reconstituted and restarted. The library's been a leader in accessibility in the facility, in our collections, and our services, and serving everyone in the community has been a primary focus of our long-range plan since I've been here. I'm in I think I just finished my 22nd year as director. I know, crazy. Time flies. But anyway, it's a foundation of our library service, and it's something that's very important to the trustees and to every member of our staff, and not just as an obligation, but they see that with enthusiasm. They embrace that idea that we want to serve everyone. And I served for 6 years on the State Advisory Council for Libraries, and that was a committee that advised the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners on library grants. And so we reviewed the grant applications and for all kinds of areas, but I was representing libraries serving people with disabilities, and so anyway, that was a really good experience. And so a lot of the projects were to improve accessibility for library services. So about the library, I just wanted to give you a little background about that. The last major renovation was completed in 1998, and that made the building ADA compliant. An elevator was added so that everyone could get to all 3 floors of the building. There are 2 entrances. 94% of the people come in the back entrance. It's the parking lot entrance, and those doors have automatic door openers. The Main Street entrance does not have automatic door openers, and there's some maintenance issues with the doors that make them heavier and harder to open. And so there is a doorbell there, though, that people can ring if they need assistance. Our collection spaces all now have nice wide aisles that exceed ADA standards, and that's not typical in an older building, and so that's something that the 1998 renovation rectified. We have accessible furnishings, tables and workstations, and our circulation desk, which is very big, 2/3 of it is at the ADA compliant, the wheelchair height. And we had the first assistive listening system in a town building for a meeting room, and we're in the process of researching to replace that with an updated version. We actually have 2 at a public service desk. We have small individual assistive listening systems so that patrons with hearing loss can have a more private discussion instead of, with a staff member, instead of people having to raise their voices more. And the Friends of Library do a Books on Wheels. It's a homebound delivery service, and that brings books and materials to patrons who can't come into the library anymore. They don't have to be homebound, but just having more difficulty getting in independently. But a large focus of our service for people with disabilities has been in the area of people with vision loss. So we have a very innovative program called VITAL, and it stands for Vision Impaired Technology Assistance at the Library. And that began in 2003, so almost 20 years ago. And what we do is not just a matter of having assistive technology for community members to use, like screen readers or magnification programs, things like that. we take it to the next step and we teach people how to use computers. Often they don't know how to keyboard or haven't used a computer before. And all the way through to learning the assistive technology and becoming independent users. And that is life-changing for people because it's their access to print and their ability to work and do all the things of daily living independently. So we provide one-on-one instruction for people, like going at their own pace. And the library is the only location where this instruction is available in southeastern Mass. The closest place is in Newton, and it's not for free. And so anyway, we provide it for free to community members. They're not all Harwich residents. They come from all over the Cape and Islands. And that program is led by our assistive technology coordinator, Carla Burke. She's a former member of your committee and a former chair. So she's very interested in coming back and talking to you too about things she knows about training resources and things that she found helpful. So I'd like to go on and on about all this, but I was actually thinking maybe when Carla comes back, it would be good if you would like to hear like more in depth about library services and maybe you want to find that out about other departments too, just to kind of get an overview of what's available in town. But anyway, I think this was on here for the grant application. I'm not sure, but
Lynn was going to research that.
yeah. So we talked for a while on the middle of the month about that. There's a potential grant from the American Library Association, and it is for small and rural libraries, and unfortunately we don't qualify for that. Harwich is too close to a town, a municipality with 25,000 or more. But even if we didn't, if we did qualify for consideration, we wouldn't have been a high priority for, very likely to get a grant, because when the nationally when they look at the town of Harwich, we're in a resort area on Cape Cod with high property values, and so this is really intended for communities that just don't have those resources that we do, and we have a modern, accessible building, so most of the facility issues are taken care of. So unfortunately, that's where we are with that. But but I don't think we have major needs either. Well, let me back up. We have one major need that is in process. And it wasn't included in the self-assessment and transition plan because work was already underway to address it, and that is the brick sidewalk in front of the library, Main Street and down Bank Street. And, like as brick does, it becomes uneven. This has proceeded to such a point that there's some places that are actually dangerous with the bigger dips and heaves and stuff. So, oh gosh, and I'm trying to think when it was, but probably 10 years ago, we started working on getting the exterior of the building assessed for long-term preservation needs, and that work got done. Well, we had a consultant, McGinley Kelso, that put together an assessment and a report, and phase one was the facade of the building, and that got preserved. If you were here in town, then you saw the big, construction fences, and they worked on the siding. And so phase two is the sidewalk project. And it's on the town website. It's if you look at the Board of Trustees page, it's the first document on the top left of the screen. It says McGinley Kelso Exterior Preservation Project. So I actually have some copies for you, though. It's a 50-page report. These are excerpts of it from the just dealing with the sidewalk piece. Oops. I should stop talking until I'm at the mic.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we got start funding when this study was being done, the self-assessment was being done. We already had a formal study and recommendations on what needed to be done, and we were in the process of getting the funding, and the town was supporting that. It wasn't controversial, so there wasn't any question it was going to get funded, and so the consultants didn't really deal with that because they didn't duplicate that work. Not that they didn't think it was important, it's just it was already underway. So in May of 2019, annual town meeting approved $90,000 for this project on the sidewalk. And that is to remove the trees that are causing the damage, to replace them with a species that's appropriate to street side locations where the roots grow down, and there's some pages in there where it talks about that. I have to apologize, some of the photo copies didn't come out so good, but if you look online, you can see them better. And so just don't want to replace them with any trees. You want good trees and sufficient height on the canopy so that cars, the building will look pretty stark and the streetscape will look pretty stark without trees there. So those will be replaced, and then the sidewalk will be, taken up and relayed or repaired. So that project has been approved, and it's in the queue with the town for procurement. Hopefully that will happen this fall. They've been getting the backlog caught up. And I'm hoping that happens this fall because chances are with inflation that perhaps that's not enough money anymore, and so we would need the notice to go back to town meeting for more funds. And if that happens, we would appreciate the support of your committee in helping advocate for that with the town and with the voters. So that's the main thing that we have, and hopefully it's taken care of, and we don't need more funding, but that's the main need that we have. The other facilities issues that are in the transition report, I'm not sure if the committee members are aware of this, but in 2013, the town centralized building maintenance. And so there is a building maintenance department as part of the Department of Public Works. And Sean Libby is the facilities manager. So I know you had Link Cooper in from DPW, but didn't talk about facilities issues with him. So rather than dealing with the community center or the town administrator about town hall or me about the library, if there are facilities issues, the DPW handles that. So that's the good thing. It's one source for those issues. So I think it would be good to talk to him about, get a status report on what's been done and what the barriers are, like what's preventing the other work. Really, it's not necessarily funding. I think it's staff time and not staff. I mean, staffing is a general issue in town, like everywhere else on the Cape these days. But even just staff time, because there's so much delayed maintenance on buildings and such a backlog of things. I just don't think they had the time to deal with. It's a lot of smaller issues here and there. But perhaps the answer is to hire an outside contractor to group them all together. But that's where I think your committee could work with DPW more and figure that out. Because I know it's a high priority for them too. They understand the importance of, if it's the doors are too difficult to open, require too much force to open. They understand all that. I think it's just a function of time and not having enough time. But there is an option for that, and that is to contract out some of that work, and that would require a town meeting article. So the good news is, you're in good shape if you wanted to investigate that in the fall, and then you submit something for the May town meeting. So that's kind of my summary where we are. I don't know if you have questions or.
I just have a question of clarification. Sure. When you were talking about the brick work in front of the building, and we were talking about improving that. Is it going to remain brick or is it going to go solid surface? It's in
the historic district, and they have required that it stay brick.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't go back to them, but they want it to stay brick.
Okay.
I'm not sure what was here before the renovation. Maybe was it a brick sidewalk before that?
As I know, it's always been brick.
Brick, okay.
I don't ever remember anything different.
And it doesn't qualify, by the way, for community preservation funding for historic preservation, because we've been through that already. Because back in the 1800s, it wasn't brick, it was dirt. So
it's improved.
So while it's historic, it's not, it's only historic as of a certain point. And it looks historic, so yeah, they'd want to keep it.
Okay.
And that's where, what we have now in that report is I don't know what you call those design plans. The former engineer called them like 25% design plans. So where it was before he left was going to go out to a contracted engineer to develop the more detailed specifications, and that didn't happen before he left. So I'm not sure what's happening with it now, whether they're going to go with just what's in the plan, or I do know you want to make sure the situation doesn't happen again. The trees cause that, but I understand that brick is always somewhat uneven as well.
Do a lot of people access the library from the front doors?
About 7%. I just looked. We finally got a door counter last year, and I looked it up today, and it was 6% come in the front door.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, which I think I may be a lot of that. I live down the street, and I'm coming in.
It's you.
But also, and it may be higher as we've normally when we have our big programs like we are this summer. When our parking lot fills, people park at Brooks Park and Town Hall, and then more come in that way. But that statistic was from July, when there were big programs going on. The rest of the year is probably a lower percentage that walk.
Do you think that the difficulty with the door on Main Street is part of the reason why fewer people use it?
No, I think it's the parking is in the back. And in fact, some of our staff refer to that entrance as the front. They think those are the front doors. I'm like, no, the front is on Main Street. That's just because it's so heavily used. I think it's the parking, and people don't, if people park at the park, a family, some will walk over, but some will drive because it's the speeds on Main Street. They don't want to take a chance crossing the street, so.
I also had, you made reference to the doors in the back side.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a difficulty with that, or is there, that people have difficulty accessing or going through that? Or
No, the doors on the parking lot side, those have automatic door openers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
trying to check.
Yeah, that's the main ones. 2 sets of doors, and they, on each side. And on the parking lot side, both sets of doors have automatic door openers.
And it's very nice that you provide delivery service to people at the door, which is, I think, a
Yes.
really nice thing for
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah. We have other things too. We have a wheelchair available for people. That's actually on loan to us, permanent loan, I guess, from the Council on Aging, so that people don't have to get out of their car if they want, or they need it while they're there, if they don't have that much stamina, I guess, to stand for a long period of time. And other things like we make sure that with our book groups that any selections they make are in an accessible format. So there's the BARD program. It's if you know the traditional talking books program, this is the newer version of that. It's all electronic without the cassettes being mailed back. So that comes straight from the Library of Congress. Yeah, the bestsellers get on there sooner. It's not as limited, say, by copyright. They get them on there. And so that's for people with sight loss or any other print disability. So it could be for other things if you have back issues and you can't sit up and read, things like that. So we do a lot of downloading of those cassettes and for people of those book titles, onto cassettes, and provide that. And that's not a normal library service either. Normally, the individual is dealing directly with Perkins or the Library of Congress, but people would rather talk to someone locally, and you get to know someone's reading likes and dislikes and things like that. So we try to do those kind of things too.
So Jenny, one of the things we're trying to do, we have a lot of information, and we're trying to ascertain what has been accomplished and what has not. And I have 7 items from what we've been given, the Town of Harwich Priority for ADA Transition Plan. And if you don't mind, can I?
Oh yeah, I didn't bring all of that with me because I've got a big binder.
If we could just go over these So the first would be exterior access route.
Well,
Southeast.
I would, so these are issues, so I have some concerns about what's in the report. I question some of it. On a lot of
Do you
these.
want me to leave this?
Yeah, you can, well, no, you can take it back if you want. They mentioned this about a lot of the doors at the library, and I think there was some misunderstanding in that there are another 4 doors to the library besides the public entrances. Those others aren't used by the public, so they're not like they wanted signage on the door telling us to where the accessible entrance was. Well, those aren't entrances. But I have some concerns too. They also called some entrances not, they're emergency egress exits. And they listed in there that they should have signage directing people to the accessible exit. And I think, having attended a lot of disaster preparedness workshops, and we've done a lot of work in that area too, that I just think the fire inspector would say, no, we have a long, thin building. You know the front of the building where the columns are?
Yeah.
So there's a door there. That's out of the children's room. That's an emergency exit. It's not an entrance or, normal exit. And so if we were telling people to turn around from there, it'd be to go back all the way through the building, where they're going to, hopefully not die of smoke inhalation or fire on the way. I would think I would expect the fire department would say the person should come out onto the landing and where they're at least out of the building. And a fire department is good and they're here right away. And other patrons and staff would be there to help people down. It mentioned that another one was the basement meeting room says, obviously it's below grade, so the exit door right in that room goes up a whole flight of cement stairs just to get to the ground, and it says it should have a sign directing people to the accessible exit. Well, there is no accessible exit from the basement. There's the elevator. Of course, you can't use that in a fire, but there are 3 other exits or egress routes, and they all require stairs. So, that's why a public building has, higher standards for fire protection. And we have a modern, sophisticated fire alarm system and fire suppression system. And so I don't know, there's really no public building would be allowed to have occupancy below grade or above the first floor if their recommendations, so I question that. I don't, the town got this, and it'll be for every building. And I think that's something the facilities people really need to look at and work out with the fire department. But I just don't see the fire department telling people not to use the closest emergency exit. So the one on the exit on the Main Street side, on the far side from where we are now, east side, it's an emergency stairwell, and it comes out onto there's a sidewalk that goes out to Main Street, and it says, I think the drop from the door threshold to the pavement is a few inches higher than it should be. That's something that DPW knows about. They've also had work orders in. We're planning to do this before this report, but again, they haven't gotten to it. There's a fence there because the land drops off there. So there's a fence, and it comes part way and stops, and so where it stops is still, kind of a good drop, and so the fence needs to be extended out towards the sidewalk more until there's not a difference in the grade. And so all of that's, work orders are in for that, and have been. It's just, more pending projects.
Have they given you a potential repair date, or no? Okay.
No.
Is it something that we might be able to help with, to push that a little bit forward?
Yeah, have some comments.
I think that would be part of speaking with Sean and finding out what are the things that they need, and because I think it's similar in other buildings. We scoot over.
Because that room is used on a regular basis.
Oh, yes, this is-
Oh, no, that's not the meeting room.
Oh,
That's just an exit from the main part of the library.
I see.
So the meeting room's down in the basement, there is no other egress from that, like they are, you have to go up the stairs. I will say, can I just say one thing, so we have a full building generator, so in a normal power loss, our elevator's gonna work. And really, that's why we've been open after storms and things, so that's good. Obviously, it's not gonna work in a fire, but neither would a chairlift or, I can't imagine, when I was in Okinawa for 2 years, and they had ramps at the hospital that ran the whole length of the hospital up and down for when a typhoon would come and power was out. Like, no public building has that here, so,
It'd be fun.
yeah.
I have a couple comments if I may. Thank you for the question about the survey. I was involved when that was going on the first time, and we had a grant to do that survey, which we took advantage of. But we, in our discussion at the time, we realized that was somewhat a superficial survey from people outside. In our action plan, which then we, for various reasons, didn't go through, was to assemble the group of people and review that survey and kind of go through some of the things that Jenny's mentioned. Give us some local knowledge, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. So I encourage you to keep looking at the survey, but take it sort of what it is. With the outside people coming in with a quick walkthrough, they were here very long, and identifying some items, then it meant that at some point we need to go back, maybe now's the point, go back and look at the survey with local input. And then that leads me to a discussion of, and Jenny, I'd like to comment again, Sean Libby, because, he's one guy and he is overwhelmed. But I think now's the time for your committee to get Sean and as Jenny's suggested, and talk about what your priorities are, because my guess is Sean hasn't paid a lot of attention to this because there's been no champion for ADA. And when you're overworked, the way life is, you kind of go after the squeaky wheel. No one's been pressing these issues. And, if Sean had time, he'd do it anyway, but he doesn't. And so he needs to prioritize this. So I think a good discussion with Sean about what your top priorities are, and so he can fit it into his priority list and get at, I think, your question about how many things have been done, what the debate is.
Yeah.
We can work on that, because I don't think anyone's really established that type of discussion with Sean, and that'd be appropriate now.
Larry, are you talking about this as the survey? Is this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right,
You're talking about this whole.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
I've read
But-
through this.
Right, but that's going on was, I think we need with the committee now, working again. Now it's time to get Sean in and have a good discussion of what your top priorities are and see where we go. I think that's a good discussion. I'll follow up, Jenny, with Joe and find out what the status is of the procurement for the sidewalk. Because we are catching up. The selectman and the board has asked him, he updates us now like every couple of months on the list. We got way behind for a lot of reasons. Now we're catching up on issuing requests for proposals. And that got to be a sore point, because some of these things are like passed by town meeting 2 or 3 years ago. And then we're getting inflation. And I also need to check, Jenny, I didn't realize this, that we only had a 25% design for that.
That's how Griffin described it.
And so I don't know, and that may mean that is the cost estimate is right on, it may mean that we missed some items. So hopefully it's not that complicated and it's not much difference between 25 and the next step normally is 90% that you get a final on. So I can follow up on those 2 items on the sidewalk issue, see where we are on that. I have a question for you though, Jimmy. In terms of ADA, how does clams play into that?
Not sure what you.
Clams, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
if I'm beside you, can I get check out the book on the web, and does that give me, does that turn into someone talking to me? I check out a book.
Oh, the
for clams.
accessibility of, no, that's, I mean, there are audiobooks that do that, but the problem is, it's the players. If you really have lost your sight, you need the accessible players through Perkins and the National Library
Okay.
Service. And because audiobooks, it's hard to, you can lose your place in those and not, without, with a normal player, it can be hard to get back
Okay.
to where you were.
I just wondered if that had
Yeah.
a role in accessibility.
No, we're actually, sure, they work on the accessibility of their website and all, but there's not as much for someone who's lost their site. When you're losing your site, there's a lot, like we have one of the largest large print collections and clams and audiobook for that reason.
Okay. If you wish, I can reach out to Sean for you.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the committee agrees.
If you
Let's
agree
try and
with
get
that,
him
and
in,
try and get him
to
on
our
the
next meeting.
I can reach out to Sean and.
Sean was not part of this except,
He-
they did a separate assessment.
Let me say, he was part of it, but only very superficially.
Right.
You know,
This was an outside contractor.
This was outside contractors, because that's what the grant paid for, and we were to
Right.
take that. And so everyone had, I'm sure Sean showed them some buildings,
Yeah.
walk them through. But in terms of a detailed discussion about, getting height and all that, he probably didn't spend a lot of time on that. I mean, it was money well spent, we got a lot of issues. I'm just saying is at this point, or at that point, it wasn't complete, because we didn't follow through and do the local. The next step, which would have been if the department heads, Sean, everyone, and you guys, and say, what are the key issues? Because this is a long report, we're not going to do everything at once. You
It's
know,
daunting.
Yeah, and so you got to pare it down to something we can talk about. We're not here, we can't solve world hunger. Let's just, get a few pieces.
Well, when you're talking about top priorities, I think we're new enough as a committee that we're not even sure what are the
No,
top.
but that's the advantage, because you're looking at it with fresh eyes. I appreciate the look at it
Being
now.
honest, but.
No, but I wouldn't, my encouragement, I get scared about it, go through and pick a few. Can't go wrong. If you pick the wrong few, you're still getting something done.
But it sounds like having Sean come in, might.
I think Larry's right too. It never really went back to the departments or the town, like with a group meeting on let's discuss this, because there were some things in there I have blown out of proportion to myself because I want to defend this. Some of the things I said were wrong, like that our circulation desk is blocked by library materials, and I think that in the picture they show, it shows that's not true. They've got a picture, it's an L-shaped desk. So this part had a self-check station. Over here's our staffed workstation for people, that the accessible height. And so it's not blocked by materials. And I guess take so much offense, like that's wrong, and I want a chance to say that because it is so important to us. And so I think we never had that like group thing on, okay, so what is not, what's maybe out of context or misunderstood here, and what is, our real issues. One thing I wanted to ask if anyone has like the full electronic report. I searched the town website and found a link in an old committee agenda. It was a link to the consultant's website, and it doesn't exist anymore. What I have is a summary. I think there was a presentation to the selectmen and the part about the library, because my notes say there were like 22 different files there. And so that's why, does anybody have the 22, let's make it one electronic file and upload it so everybody can access it, right off of your page on the town website easily.
You're looking at me, I may have, but let me dig
It was a
around.
lot. I know,
It was a lot.
I got tired of downloading the pieces, so I don't have it all. So I don't know how to compare, like things that it may have said about our egress routes compared to the community center or town hall. I don't have all of that.
Yeah.
And it would be kind of nice to know what's it.
Yeah, I can't,
are these-
I'll look and see if I can find anything.
The other thing I want to say is that Sean is excellent. If you don't know, like before, we had central building maintenance. Every department head in its own building was responsible for building maintenance. So the library, that was me. And it was, having taken over when the building was just a year old, there were a lot of things that were still under warranty, and then they stopped being under warranty, and just major issues with sophisticated systems. And, you know, it shouldn't be up to me to decide if a leak is caused by flashing on the roof, or do we need to redesign an air intake? And that's the way it was, and that's the quality of what the taxpayers were getting was not good, because, you know, you would meet with one vendor, and sometimes the same vendor, they would tell us, oh, your air conditioning is, your air exchange is too loud, you know, so people can't hear at meetings, because you need, you don't have enough vents, and so you need some more. And then the same person from the same company comes back and they say, well, I don't know, maybe you need to reduce the size of the vents, like, so you're not really, you need some real facilities people, and we have that with Sean. He's retired CB, and so he really knows a lot of aspects, so he'll be helpful, and hopefully he stays until I retire, because I don't want that back. So what I wanted to say is, this is why, like the Sidewalk Project, I've talked to you about that, because that was kind of a legacy thing that we had already started working on before Sean. And even when Sean was hired, for the first couple years, the money was still in the different departments' budgets. And I was like pushing for that, because like, let's consolidate that, because if it's in my budget, I'm still responsible for it, right? So eventually it got consolidated. And now, you know, I don't know what's going on with the facilities. That's like a good not knowing. Sean will let me know when I need to know things, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day parts of it. So anyway, we appreciate that with having him, and he'll be a good resource.
So Larry, can you invite him to our next meeting on September
can.
13th?
I can, but my thinking while you're talking, Jenny, is that I also think it's it'd be important to get Carla Birkin to talk, because she's
Yeah.
some great. So my question to you two is, that may be too much to have in one meeting. So.
No, we don't have, because we still have an agenda to cover.
Yeah.
So
you know.
maybe if we do Sean next meeting, maybe we postpone
Okay.
and invite Carla to the next one. And vice versa. I'm
October.
just saying it's probably more than you want to handle in one meeting.
You
Because
wanna-
Carla is a wealth of knowledge too.
Carla is,
Yes, Carla Burke, she's our Assistive Technology Coordinator, and she was the chair of this committee for a few years, and
And she's been very active on
Yeah.
the, not only in Harwich, but on Cape-wide disability issues. And so she
Okay.
goes beyond sight impairment, that's her, spatially, that's the right term. But she also knows what's going on generally. She's a great resource.
So she's the Assistant Technology Director?
Assistive
Assistive.
Technology Director, yeah. So she's mentioned to me some training that the Accessibility Rights Committee members took at, that the state offers. And so like more resources on what your type of committee does, and some of the rules and regulations that go along with that. Yeah. So you're thinking October, or are you thinking September for Carla?
I think October. Let's get Sean in here first. Do you agree?
Sure.
I'm just saying both of them would be too much for
It's too
one
much.
meeting.
We still have things we have to do.
Sean might be good sooner, because if there were facilities,
Yeah.
things that would be a town meeting article,
Well,
Marianne, I'm reading, I printed out like the first couple pages of this report, and I would like to have someone who is involved in putting this together to answer questions briefly, because we have items numbered, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 18, 25, 1. I don't know what those numbers indicate. And then, you know, it has priorities, and so far everything is priority 1. But there are also letters, okay? C, O, I mean, each item has a letter
Well,
by it,
let me-
but
let
I
me-
don't know what they
let me do
indicate.
this, let me see, I do have some more files, maybe I could have the file that Jenny talked to. I might, one time we had that on a disc, so let me see if it's hidden downstairs anywhere on a disc. And I also talked to Matt Hart, who was the chairman at the time, was the driver of this. If I'm lucky, he's kept something on his file.
Yeah.
I'll explore those and see if I, and that, because that's where that information you're asking is.
it sounds like to me maybe different
Yeah.
of the 22 files, different ones were authored by different people on the staff, and they may have used different numbering systems, and then it got pulled in, and so it
Well,
goes,
Some of the data, as I recall, there's a database, and the initial one, for instance, may have listed project, and it would say priority 1, next project might have listed as project 3. I know one of the sources, because I asked for it at the time, was to take that database and sort it and list everything by first priority, and then second priority, and third priority. So that gets confusing, because I know there are these 2 files with the same data, just showing it differently as we go ahead. So, and that makes it look bigger than it is, as we were trying to figure out how to address the, how to make sense of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah.
You never actually had any feedback from the company that did this?
no, they just,
You personally?
no.
Right.
No.
Right.
They did a presentation for the selectmen,
Yeah.
but not, just an overview, not anything.
Well, at least we have a list of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good starting point.
That
So
would be
somebody
great to
use it.
have someone that was involved with creating this to ask them questions. So we have 3 things going on. We have Carla Burke, we have Sean, and then we have either this man, Matthew Hart.
Yeah.
From what I've been digging through, it seems as though he's been involved in all this.
He was the most involved with this, and I'll contact him and see if
Do
he.
you mind? I
No,
would
I-
appreciate that.
sure.
And then if he'd even like, would people like him to be at a meeting?
Sure, is he
Whatever.
a,
He
an
lives in
employee?
Harwich.
He's a resident
Yeah.
as opposed to?
He was the chair of this committee.
He's resident.
Oh, okay.
He
Yeah,
still
he-
lives here.
So he's the previous chair.
Yeah, if you
So-
look back at the old minutes, you see his name, and it does seem like he was very involved
Oh,
in
very-
this,
very
and
much so.
I think he could be a great
So
resource.
that'd be great.
He
I'll
arranged the
contact him.
consultants and, got the funding for that and all.
Okay. Can we get on with our meeting then?
Okay,
And
all
thank
right.
you so much for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you. All right,
You
yeah.
have a wonderful
that's great.
library.
Can I tell you one thing? I forgot to tell you that we have, that's a new thing we're starting, is a collection of daily living aids and caregiver collection. And so it's meant for people that are having different challenges with aging or disability. So one thing is like a simple music player for someone with dementia that they can operate by themselves. And another is a fire alarm device for people with hearing loss. So you can get very expensive systems and tie it into your system. What this unit does is when your fire alarm system goes off, it's not connected in any way, but the sound of it going off makes this unit a strobe light flashes, a baritone voice makes an announcement, fire, get out, and it will shake your bed. So both of those things, those 2 things, each are a couple $100. So the idea of this is so people can try out some things, and see whether it's going to work for them or their loved ones before they spend some money on it. And then some other things will be smaller and not expensive, but those are more, people may not even be aware such a thing exists. And it's a chance to find out what's available and what may help make people's lives easier. So we'll be working on that. We're cataloging some of this now. Some of it's already out, but that's a big plan for the future, because that seems to be like the next thing. It's been 20 years since we started the Vital program for sight loss, and this seems to be will be the new thing for the future, because, we're all aging.
No.
Yeah. Some of us
refuse.
are.
Can I ask you one more
Sure.
question? Have there, to your knowledge, have there been any trip and falls from the brickwork?
On the brick, I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't heard
Nothing to
any,
your knowledge?
not to my knowledge,
Okay.
no.
And they would have come in and asked you to call rescue, but,
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it's after hours, though, on a
Right.
Sunday, I
Good
wouldn't
question,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. When it might be, it would be more likely, I would have assumed in the evenings, like after the town band concert, or, when the Cranberry Festival used to be big and people would be walking back in the dark. So no, not so much. I think, maybe with maybe with the trees, people are, the bigger holes are closer to where the trees are, and maybe people are just avoiding that area, I don't know. Or maybe they just know.
and those are the original doors facing here? That's why they're so heavy? to your knowledge?
No, I don't believe they're the original doors. I think they really probably need to be taken off and rehung, and it's something that's been on the list to get done.
So there might be an automatic one for those doors that would do it, but Sean would know that.
Oh, there's not a, I mean, sure, they could be added. That's a.
Available on the market.
I know
That's what
when
I'm
we
saying.
had,
Yeah.
oh, sure, they could be added.
Yep.
They're identical to the doors on the south
Oh,
side of the
okay.
building. When we had those automatic door openers stopped working at one point, and I want to say, I don't know if it was $10,000 or more than that. There's a lot. That was just the repair. And so it adds up. So with 2 sets of doors, you need 4 of those units, and but that's where, there may be other buildings in town that were also cited in the report for that, and that could be grouped together in an article. Yeah, we would love to have them. It's the doors are hard to open and hard to close, for staff at the end of the day. And fortunately, we have a good security alarm system, so we're not worried about that. But anyway.
I would just like to say, I appreciate what the library is doing, has done in terms of access. I think it's a really, really important, and I think public libraries tend to take a starring role in that. And I appreciate because I read your minutes,
Oh, yeah.
what a forward-looking staff you have in terms of trying to assess community needs and support those needs and novel ideas. So
What's really good about that is everyone's on the same page about that. Like, there's not, you read a lot in different management things about how to get staff on board, and everybody here, I know you have to hire the right people, but everybody's all on board with whatever it is.
We've also been blessed with a lot of good volunteers.
Oh, yes. Yes, we do. Most definitely.
Yeah, kudos to the Friends of the Library.
No, we do. Enough on my plate already.
We do, and the Vital program, that's run with volunteers, so that's really important, because that's, when we first started, a lot of people would volunteer, because it sounds like I'd like to teach people with sight loss, how to read again by using the computer, but some people, it requires patience, and you have to let the person, we are sighted, and you can see where the cursor is on the screen, where they have to follow the it requires patience and the ability to teach, and even people who are good with technology aren't always good teachers. So that's a very labor-intensive thing, but very rewarding too, because it may take 9 months from start to finish to teach someone. But we have a lot of volunteers, and the Friends Books on Wheels program is all run with volunteers. And that's really important to people, too.
And the Friends provided, or are looking to provide some assisted listening for your meeting room, is that correct?
We have that. It's
But
not
you-
functioning as well. Well, the part that doesn't work is when there are multiple speakers at the same time. So say for a book group or whatever. We're looking into different other options that would do that, yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you too. One of the things we talked about the first time we all met was even mental health issues, and you have
Yes,
that
that's
corner
huge.
now with incredible.
That's actually the
literature,
webinar that I have at 2 that on is on the mental health aspects of the pandemic.
And even, not even that,
Yeah.
anyone can just take the book and not even bring it back, and
Yeah.
it's.
That's what I felt like there was a lot that I left out. It's called the Confidential Corner, and it's just so that we're a small town, and so people don't necessarily want to bring a book to the counter and check it out, or even if it's use a self-check to have it on their record. And this just lets people take a thing on any sensitive topic that they want and bring it back when.
Fabulous idea.
Yeah, it's really good,
Thank you.
really good. Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much.
Remind me when the next meeting dates are.
The next
Oh, yeah.
meeting date is, we meet the second Tuesday, and the next meeting date is September 13th at 1 o'clock.
And following on?
Following on, yeah, I had a
Did you say it was the 15th,
13th.
13th?
So we have September 13th, and then we have October 11th.
Jenny, could you mention it to?
I will. And if there's anything that the committee needs, like you're looking for, books on a certain topic or research on anything, we'll see. I'm not guaranteeing we can find what you're looking for, but there also is a grants, when you get to that point, there's a grants foundation database that the college has that they let, community members come in and use. It's very expensive, so every library doesn't have it, but our reference library would know things like that, like where you might find resources that you need, so.
So, Ginny, if you could see if Carla could
I will.
come on October 11th.
I will.
And then Larry, if you could see if
Sean.
Sean could come on
Yeah.
September 13th. Is everybody okay with that? Yeah?
All right. Thank you so much for taking me out of order, too.
Have a good
Thank you.
Thank you for your dedication to the town.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It means a lot. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, back to old business. Steve, automatic door opener to town hall.
It's fixed.
High five.
That was good.
That was fast.
Did you fix it?
No.
Oh.
Somebody turned it back on and I checked it and it works fine.
Good.
Because when I came in, I
Someone
thought,
turned it off.
I'm just going to try it. And he was behind me, and it does work now. So that's a good thing. Okay, beach access for disabled. I guess I was involved, very involved in that.
Mhm.
There are new wheelchairs, 2 of which are at Red River Beach. The Moby mats have been on back order, and they have not arrived. I have created a relationship now with Eric, and I'm going to get back to him because there are 2 or 3 paths by lifeguard chairs 5 and 6 that could be accessible, but no one's swept them off. So I want to talk to him about that, if
Mhm.
that's okay
Sure.
with the committee.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's at Red River?
this is Red River
Yeah,
Beach.
because a couple of those paths are
They're
like
really terrible.
4 inches of
Right.
sand on top of them. You can't even
Exactly.
see them.
And so I know where they are now. And then I also have an axe to grind on bathrooms being open after 4 or 5 o'clock. I found out that they have to be opened, but the DPW has contracted out the person that cleans and locks the bathrooms, and they're
Uh-huh.
closing them too early. And
Wow.
I had someone who was very wheelchair bound Saturday night about 8 or 9 o'clock, and those bathrooms were closed.
Is
So-
that Red River
At
or?
Red River.
Bank?
So I'm going to talk to him about that as well.
Mhm.
Okay. These documents have sort of opened a wonderful opportunity for us, I believe. Is everyone in agreement that we get people in here to talk to us?
Oh,
The way
definitely.
we've set it up? Don's got it.
Yep.
Great. So let's just have the agenda be
Mhm.
all new business with these speakers coming in next time. And we'll line that up. Is that okay with you, Larry, to try
It
and
is,
get
yeah.
that appointment
Yeah.
for us? And I'd also like to get Matt Hart in.
I'll talk to Matt.
You have our dates, and
I
then
have
we'll
the
work
dates
on.
and see when he's available. I'm sure I can talk to him too.
And help
He's an
me
old
out here.
man. He's like a week older than I am, so you have to be careful with him.
And Matt Hart is the person you mentioned before that was on the,
He was
Committee
chair.
before.
He was the committee.
driver.
He,
who was the.
He was the committee.
yeah.
He was
did
for
amazing
several
work.
years.
He was. He worked really
Amazing.
hard at it, did an incredible job. Quite frankly, got a little discouraged because he thought at least twice that he'd gotten 1 grant from the state to do this work, and got then lost out at the last moment.
Oh, dear.
And then his wife had a lot of personal things going on at the same time. But he's still here, and I can shame him into coming in.
Okay.
Well, is there, I was thinking about when I was reading through this the other day, and I don't know if all of these things are still in the same condition. Or do
I have no way of
do
knowing.
we do some walkthroughs and stuff like that? Because I know that, I was listening to women talk about the library, but there are things like wheelchair accessible tables that are available for people to use there, and I just have to, I frequently go to the library, and the requisite requirements for tactile directions and that kind of thing. And I just happened to, as I was going through, I said, oh yeah, that must be it, but I don't know if they're in the right position or not. So I don't know if people want to get to that level right now, or just a more global view.
I'm wondering that too, and
Yeah.
let's throw it out to the committee, because I'm looking at Cranberry, down the golf course, the community center, Harwich
Sean
Cultural
can
Center.
probably tell us which ones that he knows of that are already complete.
So should we
Or
wait
not
for him
complete.
first
I-
before we do
Yeah.
our?
I would agree with that, because he
Yeah.
might help
Okay.
organize with the department.
Some stuff
heads.
he's not gonna know, but he's gonna know, oh, they took care of that already.
I'd be willing to go look, but why don't we?
Sure.
Oh,
And I didn't
For this
envision that I
short-
would, I don't have a centimeter, because it was like centimeters, and I'm saying, oh,
I
I don't
know.
have a rule that I have to read.
One of them's about a half-inch high threshold, I mean, the Brooks Library. And-
Chirp hazard.
Oh, okay, right.
There's a thing about it. Steps have to be steps, can't be not steps. In other words, there's a certain range that it has, because people who have mobility problems, a half-inch step is they're gonna trip on.
Excellent. So, you were also talking, Eileen, about small grants. Should we wait on that too? I'm thinking we need to just wait and see
Yeah,
where we're going here.
yeah, because we're trying to figure out
Before we
what's
try and
the,
get a grant.
sure. Where is the
Okay.
best return on that investment of time and energy to
Exactly.
go
And
after?
priority
Yeah.
for the townspeople.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was somewhat saddened when this woman was talking about they had, a grant, but then it was full, didn't really come through, so.
So I think the next thing we need to know is who is coming on what dates.
Right.
So, can you keep in touch with me?
I will,
Thank you.
I will.
And then, are all of you okay with my emails that I'm sending to
Mhm.
bring you
Very
up
nice.
to date? Particularly, I was shocked when I opened the first page of the Chronicle and saw that there was an ADA compliant trail now on, what was it, Cold Brook Path. That's a beautiful thing, but we didn't know about it. So how can this committee know about, like, we're new, we don't know, and then it was a little, almost upsetting, like, wait a minute, why didn't we know about that
Is that trail in Harwich?
on Bank Street?
Oh, jeez.
You would have to talk to Matt Hart about it.
Matt, who?
Maybe
Matt Hart,
that hard.
the previous
Well,
committee.
This one, I actually, because this came for permission to do that to the selectmen, I didn't think to pass it on.
So
There
next
must be a
time.
more organized way of doing it.
Yeah.
Whereabouts on Bank Street is it?
At the old fire station.
Yeah.
The old, oh, okay.
Beautiful in there, but now
Yeah.
it's ADA accessible, so that's fantastic.
And they are working on making some of the trails, a portion of the trail is ADA compliant, but not for the full length.
Right.
And they are working on how can they do that, la, 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 la.
And who,
Long term.
when you say they,
I think that's the trail committee, right? And
Well, that
We
particularly
have
is
a
a Harwich
trail committee?
Conservation Trust.
Constant.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you can invite, maybe you'll probably get Michael Lock in here sometime to talk to you as well. You want to fill up your agenda quickly, but he's the chair of the Harwich Conservation Trust, and so they're the ones that have been pushing, doing, that's their work on this.
They do a lot of grant things and that kind of stuff. They also get.
what was his name?
Is Michael Lock, L-A-C-H.
Oh, Mike Rock, oh, sure.
Mike Lock.
Michael.
Know him, so
Yeah, very well.
he'd be a good resource to get in here as well.
Yeah, he's been around a long time.
He
knows-
sure
knows the
has.
town.
I know him very well. Okay, so we'll get him in November. I'll nail him down. Would that be okay with everyone? Get him in November and December. Good, well, we're going to be busy. Anything else that we haven't covered today when you peruse this agenda? We've got a lot of new business coming up.
Yeah. I'm just not sure how to, this is a good survey. It's old, but I don't know how to really use it at this point in time.
And
We're
that would
just
be-
trying to get the basics of people that,
Well,
become
and
the
as I
points of
said, that's what
contact.
we were struggling with at the time too. That's why we tried to sort it different ways. Because there's too much to do at one time. Somehow you gotta go through it. And so, I'm not discouraged by it. I think if you just look at this and pick out some things that are important and talk to Sean
Yeah.
and measure through and go from there. Get with him and, this is at least a list of things to look at
Yep.
and get you started.
Sean's last name?
Libby. Is that how you spell it, please? No, I give you one.
And I'm sorry, again, what does he do?
He's the
Facilities
facilities
director.
director.
The DPW.
Finally,
What do you mean?
for years, we did not do well with facilities. It was just broken out as DPW, and it took, what, 5 or 6 years just to get it through.
Well, it forced Jenny was being nice. It forced her to be a mechanical engineer. I don't think she was part of her training as a librarian. She did it well, by the way, but it
Yeah.
wasn't,
That's fine.
She was getting a little frustrated.
Okay. I would like to adjourn this meeting.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We're all set.
Did
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Did
Yeah,
we
I'll
have
take
a
you
motion
to-
to
Oh, we
adjourn?
didn't, sorry. I need a motion. I need a
Any
motion.
motion, yeah. So I just wanted to say, I really appreciate your passion in trying to get after all this. And going forward, not to be scared away by the business stuff. We'll work through it.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn this
Move to adjourn.
meeting?
Second that motion.
Steve and then Eileen. Okay.